Well, hello everyone. It is 3/20 of 25. I am Delbridge, Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. This is your weekly status chat. Today we're going to talk very briefly, because we haven't done this in a while, about the Beige Book. Now, the Fed met this week. It was March. There were no surprises. I certainly didn't expect anything. The CME Fed Watch tool didn't expect anything. We were nearly in 100% chance that we were not going to get a rate cut. We may get a rate cut up to 2 this year, but the economic conditions don't really show that. And inflation is accelerating because if we'll rewind, we remember that the Fed, before the election, cut the rate 50 basis points, then 25 and 25, when we didn't need to by the economics. If we were trying to control inflation, we didn't do it. And now we have new economy going on. Let's go take a peek in the Beige Book, according to that federal document, of what we might expect as of right now.
If you like this content, please go to CallDelToSell.com, find the tab that says on YouTube, click it, and it'll open up a page of QR codes. There you can use a smartphone to scan and get to the YouTube page, or you can just mouse over and click it on a PC. There you'll be able to subscribe to this little button over here and click the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you when each Friday's blog has been uploaded. Thank you.
All right, we're going to look directly at the Beige Book. And we're going to do it right now, but I want to remind you that I'll put the link to the Beige Book in the description of the status chat so you can go look it up and you can read for yourself, because we're just going to hit the summary just very briefly. I'll go through a couple of lines and then hit a little point that they make in the general, and then we'll be done and we can get on with our lives. All right, are you ready? All righty. So here we are. This is at federalreserve.gov. It's the Monetary Policy Publications Beige Book default page. This is the page for the Beige Book. Right there it says, I can't get on it without flipping home monetary policy, but you see where we're at, right? All right, so we're going to look at the way they do this. It's a little awkward, I think, for some reason. In 2025, they list January 1st, and they kind of do the top down, when I wish they would have done it the other way, do the January, then March, then April, then June, and so on, and build up. But it goes backwards. And if you see these in a list of multiple years, it seems a little different the way they do it. Well, we'll look at the HTML version. This is just their page. National summary, overall economic activity. Overall economic activity rose slightly since mid-January. 6 districts reported no change, so that's half of them. 4 reported modest or moderate growth, and 2 noted slight contraction. So when you look at it, 2 out of 12 were contracting. That would mean we're slowing the economy, and the rest of them are either holding to what they got or getting better. Consumer spending was lower on balance. Yeah, people are curious to what's going on. Some of it, I'm sure, is political in nature, where people are wondering, are the tariffs going to affect us? What's going on? It's the new year. Every new year, plus we have the tax preparation season. So, this is not unusual that there are some questionings, particularly among lower income shoppers. Now, that is a fact. Dollar General, I heard something from their CEO was saying that people were having trouble at Dollar General. We've been doing this before the election, but we've gotten through. Unusual weather condition. We had a little bit of snow there for a while. Weekend demand for leisure and hospitality services were affected. Vehicle sales were modestly lower on balance. I think that's a good thing, and I'll tell you why. Because toward the end of Biden, we had so much panic and out of controlness in the economy in general, and what supply chain they called it was issues, and we just really ran up the cost of used cars and new cars, and it's really hurting our auto industry. I think we covered that last week. So as a result of that, prices got too high. So what do we need to get prices down? You have to have a slowing of the transaction. As long as people are buying, no one, the seller, isn't going to cut price. They're not going to be very amenable to any kind of negotiation, whether it be houses or cars. So we need to slow the economy a little bit so that people kind of settle back down on the new margins for the automobiles. And that's kind of where we are. So I don't take that this vehicle sales were modestly lower on balance is bad. They're still good. They're just a little bit slower. Manufacturing activity exhibited slight to modest increases. That's also not great, but it's not terrible. At least it's moving in the right direction across the majority of districts. Contracts in manufacturing, ranging from petrochemical products to office equipment, expressed concerns over potential impact of looming trade policy changes. Well, I think we're just going to have to see how that works out. I think we come out a winner on this. It's just that, anytime somebody has been riding the gravy train and, somebody decides, well, we're not going to pull it anymore. We're not pulling your gravy train. You're going to have to start, you got to get out of the wagon and help pull. They don't like that much. So there's a little kicking on it. But the leverage is in our favor. We are the biggest economy in the world. People's economies depend on us to buy their stuff. They're not going to mess with us too terribly much. Now, we had to be careful and strategic in this, but we also saw numbers of companies announcing that they're going to build in the United States instead of other places to avoid the said tariffs. So that's good for our unemployment and our employment, right? So it's a picture too big for me to paint. I'm not Bob Ross, and I can't have any happy little clouds over here. I don't have that control. So anyway, there we are. I think it's looking pretty good. Banking activity was slightly higher on balance among districts that reported it. Residential real estate markets were mixed, and reports pointed to ongoing inventory constraints. Well, if we have inventory constraints, that is suggesting that we have too little inventory, which would drive prices up. But if we're concerned about the economy, that drives them back down again because, there's not that many people shopping. I think we're going to do well this season. I think on the total, when we get it over with, I don't see prices really coming down much. I don't see the motivation for that unless we have major economic disruption, say in the automotive industry here in our area. People are still migrating to Tennessee. So I don't think that that's the case locally. Now, it may have an effect on the other states, the blue cities and blue states where people are leaving if they're having trouble with getting their existing property sold so that they can be free of it to come to Tennessee. But in Tennessee, in our Middle Tennessee, and our MSA, I don't see that that's a problem. So anyway, we'll look at this. Let me zoom in a little bit more. We'll reread that just for the kicks and giggles to make sure we got that message. Residential real estate markets were mixed, and reports pointed to ongoing inventory constraints, shortages, right? Construction activity declined modestly for both residential and non-residential units. Well, see, there's your future trend. If we're scaling back construction, and some of that may be because we're concerned about, our Canadian lumber coming in, but that's only one product. Remember, during the whole Biden administration, it was one thing after another. It was paint. We couldn't get paint because something burned. We couldn't get wire because copper or whatever. We couldn't get plumbing materials because of the polymers that were there. There were always some kind of an excuse why prices were going up. And the fact is that it's just inflation. It was just inflation. Something got the blame. At least that's my take on it. Now we're having the same thing. But if we're not going to build as many houses, we're not going to improve the shortage that the Beige Book implies that they are in fact seeing, right? I mean, that's what it says. Some contracts in the sector also express nervousness around the impact of potential tariffs on the price of lumber and other materials. That's what I just said. Agricultural conditions deteriorated some among reporting districts. Well, we didn't have that bad weather. Overall expectations for the economic activity over the coming months were slightly optimistic. So, weren't bad. Wasn't a bunker buster, but it wasn't bad either. So we're pretty steady. The markets don't like change. They don't like the unknown. They don't like the change. It is indicating right up at the beginning, and we have seen in the CPI month after month after month that it's housing, that it's the housing prices that are keeping a lot of this out of whack, whether it be the PCE or the CPI. It's the housing or rental equivalent, owner's equivalents of rent that's causing the shelter. The shelter, which includes more than just us that would buy property, it has an effect on it. So that's going up. The Beige Book is saying that we're going to have continued constraints. We're going into the green season. Everybody likes to spruce stuff up and going. I think it's going to be a good year in Middle Tennessee. And I'm not making it up. At least I'm showing you where my personal bias is coming from. My leanings are coming from the data. And yeah, the Fed has known to be political and gloss stuff over, but there's nothing ugly in the report this month, right? Let's look at it. We'll go to labor market, just one sentence on them and prices. Employment nudged slightly higher on balance, so that's good. We're hiring more people, more work. We're coming into the summer. That's going to be good. We'll have our seasonal adjustments. 7 reported no change. 6 recorded slight increase. Only 1, I want to point this, only 1 reported a slight decline. So that's 1 out of 12. So I think labor is looking pretty good overall. Prices increased moderately in most districts. So we've still got inflation going. It's still pushing 3%. It's not 2% yet, but several districts reported an uptick in the pace of increases relative to the previous reporting period. So if inflation is accelerating, we're not unlikely to see those 2 proposed potential discussed cuts in the near future. They'll probably want to see us slow down a little bit, and yet the indications are we're speeding up. We're not slowing down. So the 2 possible this year may not happen. And if they happen, I doubt they'll come in time for the spring fling of buying houses. Okay, now when we look at these, as we slide on down, these are your, obviously by district. We have 12 of these if you haven't watched one of these shows before, and we happen to be in the Atlanta. And we get like this one little line, this one little paragraph type thing right here in our area. The economy of the 6th district expanded at a modest pace. So we are growing, not slowing. Employment was steady, so we're not going unemployment. That's not crashing out on it. Wages, inputs, and costs, prices increased modestly. We still have inflation. Retail sales fell slightly. We're slowing, but we're not yet slow enough to control inflation. Travel and tourism were steady. Home sales declined somewhat. Yes, well, people are waiting for the green season for somewhat, so you need to get started. I think transportation activity grew modestly. Loan growth was moderate. Growth, that is, moderate. Manufacturing expanded slightly. That's expanded. Energy demand increased modestly. So energy is going up. We don't need energy if we're not building and burning and doing stuff and moving and hauling. So yeah, I think we're doing pretty good. Now let's wrap this thing up. We've talked enough.
Hello, I'm Delbridge of Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. If you are currently unrepresented and would like to know how to compare up to 3 properties side by side and room by room, then go over to my new YouTube channel, CallDelToSell. That's 1 L and Del, no spaces. Watch the demo on Real Scout, and then call me and we'll set up your exclusive ad-free account today.
All right, last week we hit 19% in the ratio. 3, 13, 25. We had 22,787 in the opportunities. That includes the coming soons and the ready for contracts. 4,304 were the under contract still showing. Both of those increased over the previous period, as well as the energy ratio to 19%. This week, 320 of 25, 23,020 were the opportunities. That is a slight increase, and 4403 in the under contract still showing also increased. Both of them increased. The ratio stayed the same at 19%. So there we are. I think we're looking pretty good. I wouldn't expect rates to be highly volatile. Maybe they will be. I don't have a crystal ball. So if you're looking to buy or sell, you're only going to have one spring in 2025, and it's right upon us. We've got to get started. Appreciate you watching. Have a great week.